Yay!
You guys did it perfect. It's like I explained when we were going to be live. And then, wow, I never get clapped for.
Why not?
Well, because
I'm all about the claps.
Who's clapping for? Okay. The truth is, I often get clapped for by myself.
There you go.
Most of the time, we start the show and it looks like this. I made it through another day alone.
I'm here. Well, I noticed this is the first time I noticed on your little thumbnail that you've got the biohazard sign, and I was kind of wondering, like, when do you think you're gonna get rid of that? How far out of this do you think we need to be before you feel like?
The way you set that up does make me think you have an opinion on it.
No, I think it's a question that we all have. It's the question we're all in of, like, how far until we're not doing this anymore?
This is a question that I don't know. What I do know is anytime that we think we're making headway and we celebrate it too much, then we're in trouble. So maybe if I just keep it there, then we won't ever actually be there again. But if I don't,
it's all on you.
Yeah,
it's all on you.
You're single-handedly holding back the entire wave of coronavirus.
I feel as if I do hold the weight of the world on my shoulder, and I did do this. I probably deserve a statue more than Dolly Parton, and her $1 million to Moderna doesn't touch my thumbnail image that says, "I'm here for the people." Speaking of the people, guys, I think you already know him because I referred to him as my partner in crime, but he hasn't been on this show in a minute. If you're not watching us on Only Stupid Answers, then you are the stupidest of
the answers.
People. The answers. DJ Wooldridge.
Hey, that's me. That's who I am.
But then when I referred to you in the tweet, I was like, he's my partner in crime. But then he has another partner in crime, and we're making a partner in crime sandwich right now with Jayna July.
Yay! And I was telling Roxy before we went on, this is really cool because of scheduling and stuff. This is actually one of the first times I've been able to promote Hellbent with Jayna, and so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm a busy girl.
Well, you know what? Like, some of us do things that really matter in life, and you're one of them. So, you've got like real people things, and DJ and I like to like play pretend for our lives. And but even playing pretend is hard.
A lot harder than it seems.
It should be. Maybe. It helps if you put on costumes.
Yeah. Wow. Actually, that was a suggestion that I got in one of the comments recently, is that I should keep some kind of a costume box next to me. I do love like boas and wigs and like any kind of thing that makes me feel like I'm not me. It's hard to be me sometimes. So I think that the fact that you just said costumes, it's kismet. And that means that now I have to do that. I also wonder if I've been using the word kismet right. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think it's kismet. Like, it's kind of like a cosmically destined type of deal. We're all writers. We should know this.
Yeah. I use it too often to not exactly know what it means. So I'm just going
to... Here I go.
It is destiny and fate. I wasn't too far off. Destiny and fate. Kismet.
Well, thank you guys both for being on the show. It does feel like kismet. It feels like kismet that you're here, and that because you guys aren't able to do this together a lot, that this is the place that you are. You're here talking about Hellbent, which I have been tweeting and talking about nonstop on this show. As you guys know, if you watch the show every day, then you've heard me mention it. But in case you don't know what I'm talking about, it is in the link in the description below. And I have a feeling we're going to learn a little bit more about it today. But taking it back prior to Hellbent, y'all have been homies for a minute. Like, how did you guys get involved with one another? I remember I was reading the Kickstarter bio that said that you guys had been like friends forever, but partners in like writing and creative projects for almost just as long. Were you guys like little kids on the playground writing in the sand, or where does it go back to?
It all began one day when I moved to Florida, and there was DJ. So we used to be very religious, which you might be able to tell by our comic book themes. And so I believe it was at a pool party, DJ. Do you recall the same?
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a pool party, and like you weren't swimming, and I didn't want to swim either.
That sounds like us. Yes.
Each other and became friends.
Yeah.
What age are we at the time?
So is it 21 years? 20 years?
Oh my God.
It's been 20 years as of June.
Oh my
because
God.
I moved to Florida in 2001 and it's 2021.
You guys, your friendship can almost have a beer.
Yeah, that's wild. I feel like I think I mentioned this before. I feel like I'm too young to have had a friendship for 20 years, but that's not true.
Yeah. Don't I know it? Anytime that something's longer than 10 years, I'm like, I must have been a child at the time. It's like, no. 10 years ago, I was a full-blown adult. Okay.
Yeah. Anytime when somebody was like, 20 years ago in the year 2000, like, no, nothing 20 years ago was in the year 2000. That's the 90s.
So you guys were non-pool wanting to go in kids, but were you guys always creating stuff, or what was it like at the time? Paint a picture for me.
I feel like you probably started this, DJ. Like you probably started the creativity trend.
I don't know if that's true. I think we bonded over using our imagination over video games. A lot of like playing Smash Brothers. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And
as a gamer, I would have kicked both of your guys' butts. This we know.
Yes, Roxy is.
I'm awful. I am like horrible. Yet I describe myself as a gamer. It is really tough. It's not a cute look on me.
And so we played video games and we bounced story ideas off of each other and we bonded over like fiction and various ideas. And I think actually when we were working on this, I came across like an old computer folder of like old ideas, and half of them I was like, I don't even remember what this is. I don't even remember what the bit was. I don't know what we were going for.
I remember now. It was in Miss Bell's class.
Yeah.
That we were doing creative writing, and then that's where it started.
Wait, DJ, aren't you? Were you not always homeschooled?
So I started being homeschooled in middle school. I went through elementary school, and so I think, and I was always like, my dad probably still has a physical folder full of like old comics I used to draw when I was in grade school, like shitty kid comics. Can you cuss? Are we allowed to curse on the show?
No.
Oh, okay. God damn it.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. It's YouTube.
So and I was always playing around with stuff like that, and we moved around a lot. But met Jayna in St. Pete, and that was probably I think you're right. I think that's when we started collaborating on stuff. Is that creative writing class?
What Roxy's confused about is that if we're homeschooled, how do we have a class together?
Oh, that's a great point.
That was
glossed
exactly
right
what
over
I was getting at, but I also love the journey. I like to know everything.
We're like lemmings. We like flock together. I don't know. And so basically, like, you get the mom who has like the most mathematical know-how, and she teaches a class. I have to there's class. And then you get like the mom who like can do creative writing the best, and she teaches a class, and basically.
Yeah, so that was co-op, right? That's what we called that.
Yeah, co-op. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those like because you a lot of times, I don't want to speak for everybody, but a lot of times you're homeschooled because your parent is afraid of the public school system, but they also don't theoretically want you to be an antisocial weirdo, so they try to like group you together. And so we had co-op, so we shared a few classes that theoretically our individual parents wouldn't have been good on their own.
So how many people are in those classes? It sounds like homeschool means you just made your own little classrooms.
Yeah, like 6 to 8, I would say.
Yeah, it was really small, and it was mostly people either in or around our own little church group. Yeah.
And were you guys all, I think DJ you were, but Jayna, were you reading comic books at the time? Were you always a fan, or is that later on in life?
So I've always been more of a manga person. Do read comics, but I think actually I got more into comics because of DJ actually. But mostly read on my own. He
has that effect on people. Somehow.
Yeah, mostly would read manga on my own.
But I do want to say that I think, was it you that originally told me about, I might be remembering it correctly, but was it you that originally told me about Grant Morrison's Animal Man run?
Yeah, that was me. Because I don't remember how you it. Oh, I did probably TV Tropes, actually. I probably just came across it through TV Tropes. And then I was like, that was awesome. And then I like looked it up, and I know that you did a short adaptation of that.
Yeah. Back in the Fightoverse days when I was trying to make little short films that most you cannot find now because they're not, in hindsight, not very good. But yeah, no, I actually have the full Grant Morrison Animal Man omnibus and his Doom Patrol run. But yeah.
And so then what happens? Like, you guys get to be adults, you're still creative people, and one of you picks up the phone and calls the other and is like, you want to work on something?
Well, yeah, I think fortunately, Jayna and I stayed in touch over the years, and more specifically, when I would go to Fantastic Fest, that was a good opportunity for her and I to meet up in person and catch up.
I always wanted to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's back this year.
I have FOMO right now. Yeah, but just the fact that, are you gonna go?
Great question. I'm trying to figure that. It's a cost analysis thing. Like, is it worth do I have the money? Is it worth, all that stuff? But I am considering it because I do really miss it. I would like to. But yeah, that's so that was a good opportunity for Jayna and I to catch up in person. And so we'd always stayed in touch, and there's always been a few ideas. My last comic, Chaos Theory, Volume 2, it was just really challenging to get out. And so I kind of gravitated towards ideas that had been with me in some form or fashion for a long time, because that means a lot to me. Then it's worth all the work and the drama and the headache of trying to get it out into the world. And so that led me to ideas. When I talked to Jayna, there's actually a couple ideas that we had worked on versions of. There was one that was specifically a story we came up together, and then Hellbent that incorporated a lot of ideas that we played with when we were younger. And so I kind of pitched both.
Pausing on that, DJ, because you're saying coming up with a story, like, is this like you guys are just chatting on the phone and just like riffing, or you're coming up with a story like you're on purpose sitting down trying to outline specifically a comic book, or was it like, oh, let's just see if we have characters we like or ideas? What does it mean we're coming up with a story?
I had the bare bones basic idea of what Hellbent would be. And so that was one of the two things I pitched to Jayna. And Jayna, correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember right, you asked me like, okay, well, which one are you more interested in? And at the time, I was just really feeling, I just really liked what we could talk about in Hellbent. So I was like, yeah, I kind of think this. And at that point, that's where we started really figuring out how the story would work, what the characters are, what the relationship is to each other, and really fleshing it out and making it what it is.
Is this during quarantine?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was right at the beginning of, well, not right at the beginning, but like 2 months into it or something like that.
Yeah, because Roxy, you may remember, I was full bore, ready to go. I was going to make a movie. I was going to crowdfund a movie. I had cast. I literally, right as everything was shutting down, we were shooting promo footage that was going to be part of the campaign. And going into quarantine, I was like, 2 weeks. Okay, how we're in quarantine for 2 weeks? How can I, make this work? And as it became clear that it was like, this isn't ending anytime soon. I went back to the idea of working on a comic because you don't need to be in a room with a person to make that.
Were you concerned? Because as you had just said, the previous comic was a little challenging to push out. And like, I know that as creators, if we don't create, we feel like we're dying. So you kind of don't have any other option. And you, like you just said, you're not allowed to be in the same room, but the last experience might not have been the most easy of experiences. Was that something you were cognizant of going into this? And did that kind of change maybe in like themes or tone or any of the moves that you made, or why you wanted a partner on this one?
I wanted to reach out to Jayna because I knew, again, this connected to a lot of stuff we talked about in the past, and I just knew she would really be able to make it work, make it special, make it something really complement my interests and my stuff with what she's good at, and really make something unique and special. But when I originally was talking to her about it, the original idea was we're going to do like an issue or two. We're going to have an outline, do an issue or two, pitch to publishers. But the comic industry was in free fall from that. So I was talking to some of my industry buddies, and they're like, don't do that. Don't do that. If you can do Kickstarter, do that. And which was full disclosure, kind of like the last thing I wanted to do, because it's a lot. It's a big challenge. But I've
never done it. I've watched you do it 3 times now, DJ. And every time I have had more and more respect for you, because holy shit, do you put a lot of work into that?
Yeah. And I hopefully, I don't think you've ever been around for any of like the panic attacks or anything that accompany it.
I've had to knock off the metaphorical ledge a few times.
It's really it's tough. It's nerve wracking. It's still nerve wracking. The campaign's doing really well right now, but it's still nerve wracking. But yeah, that was the only way to get this story done.
And you really wanted to tell this specific story. Well,
especially once Jayna and I started working on it, I really feel like we've got something cool here. It wasn't until we needed to start trying to like promote it that it occurred to me that like in a lot of ways, this is because when Jayna and I were talking about it, we talked about Sandman, we talked about Preacher, we talked about stuff like that. And so this really is in a lot of ways like a love letter to, not even a love letter, but just kind of like a spiritual successor to a lot of those classic 90s Vertigo comics that really like pushed boundaries, but in their own way were more inclusive than any comics had been in the past. And it was towing this line. And again, I think Jayna and I get each other in a way that really helps with the towing the line of being irreverent and pushing boundaries, and but also being inclusive and creating an overall positive story. Like the premise and the arc of the story is positive. Just along the way, there's a lot of violence and cursing and sex and drugs and all that stuff.
So Jayna, what is the premise, the arc? No spoilers.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So let me see. So basically what it is it's a modern epic that revolves around Christianity as a mythology rather than as like a proselytizing, so like a lot of like, so we're not like a God's not deading this thing. Like we're not like, we're using our history, our backgrounds to come up with a situation that we can actually use to critique and also like provide, I guess you could say, like maybe insight that we think like religious communities could really benefit from if they're open to hearing it. And then there's a lot of queer elements as well, and which is my wheelhouse. I am transgender and a lesbian, and so lots of the themes from there as well, and just kind of if you want like the elevator pitch, it's about the Antichrist is a trans girl. That's the elevator pitch. So very, very like, what? Like you can't see that coming in the Bible. So
yeah.
Oh, the Bible didn't hint at that.
Didn't hint at that. Sorry.
Wow, I think I read it wrong.
Yeah, so that's Jezzy is the daughter of the devil, but doesn't want to be a part of any of like the apocalypse or destroying humanity or any of that stuff. So she ends up going on the run with her other lead, which is Nick, who's like I always like to describe him as John Wick meets John Constantine. He's kind of like a cult hitman kind of character. And that's where we begin. That's the beginning of our journey.
How many times when you guys are working on this are you turning to each other and saying, are we going to piss a lot of people off?
It's crossed our minds quite a few times.
Yeah, especially because there's different ways to piss off different groups from all things. And so I think we, in a lot of ways, we just had to rely on each other and trust our instincts. So specifically, I've been showing people page 2 of our comic, which is graphic. Let's just put it that way. It's graphic. And I went to Jayna. I'm like, is this okay? Is this too much? And she's like, hey, what this is what we wrote. I mean, like it's either we do this or we don't do it. We got to commit.
But we are allowing Saga to kind of like give us permission to be a little disgusting. So.
Yeah, and it's definitely I think it's a good thing we went on Kickstarter because truth be told, I honestly just don't think publishers would touch this comic, it's a real bummer because I think one of the beauties of the comic medium is that it still has this kind of underground quality where it's not you don't need a $2 billion budget to make one, it's a lot of money. It's a shocking amount of money. But it's so it doesn't have the same scrutiny as a big Hollywood blockbuster, but I guess it's gotten enough scrutiny to where people have been scared off from doing comics that really like touch on queer issues in this way, or touch on religious issues in this way, because I full disclosure, we didn't make this comic to piss anybody off.
That's not our intent. No.
Yeah, that's not why we did. We're not trying to like
tell a story.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just this happened to be the way the way it came to us. The way
we wrote something we want to read. Like that's what we wrote, And so like when we liked stuff like Preacher, and so that's like why we wrote that.
Yeah.
I think something interesting about what you were just talking about, how it's not, I don't know if you use the word mainstream, but that big companies might not invest in this because they're scared off by stories or whatever. But what's interesting about that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, DJ, but of all of the comics that you have worked on, this one is the most out there and is the most well received so far, with getting the most support on Kickstarter. Like your other comics are about things like dinosaurs and shit that we still love because we're nerdy as hell.
Yeah.
But this one is the one that I keep seeing, like, people are tweeting about this. People are supporting your Kickstarter. It's doing really well. You're hitting goals. We still want to hit more goals. We'll talk to you guys about that in a second.
Yeah.
But it's like really thriving right now. And so I think that other people are kind of morons if they think that people aren't wanting to read the same exact shit that me, you, and you want to read.
Yeah, and again, it's just in that same, like, once you have to go through any sort of corporate system, I just think people get scared off by this stuff, and I'm really excited to see how people react to it when they read it, because like we're right in a stage of the campaign's going well. We're right at a point where like Jayna and I are gonna have to go through the script one more time before we send it to the letterer. And just when I go over it, it's like I really like it. I'm really excited about it. I think Heather and Ellie and Haley are doing great work on the interior pages, and I'm just excited to share it with people.
How do you feel about it, Jayna?
I'm excited and very shocked actually that it's doing so well. Really was kind of expecting like people to be like, this is too French. So that's kind of what I was expecting.
So where are we currently at right now? So like, what were the goals? What have we hit? What are we working on? Again, the Kickstarter is in the link in the description below. It's the very first link that's there. So check that out. It also has some of this cool stuff on there, but you guys have like ridiculous artwork that is just like beautiful to look at, but come the F on.
Yeah, those are variants. Really happy with all the cover art we got and everything. Right now we are currently at 170%. We're working on our second stretch goal, which I really hope we hit, because that allows us an opportunity to add more pages to the comic, which is going to be kind of like, I've been kind of describing it as like a compendium. It's going to be this kind of like, anybody that's read Watchmen, the extra material on the back that kind of fleshes out the world and fleshes out the backstory. Anybody that's reading the current X-Men books and any of the way the infographics and stuff they put in there, stuff like that. Because the way Jayna and I work, the way we've always worked since we were kids, is you have your story, but through that you're building out an entire reality, a support structure, so how everything kind of works. And this is it's tough to fill all that in organically into a 44-page comic. So. That will allow us to kind of flesh out some of the mysteries, give more of the backstories of some of the characters, and truthfully, it puts us in an opportunity to get closer to breaking even on the expenses for the comics, and puts us in a better position to do the sequel, because and I've said this on a few shows. It's like what we asked for is the base amount. Like, hey, I don't want to go broke. I want to make this comic, but I don't want to go broke doing it. This is the base amount. So the closer we get to our next stretch goal, just puts us in a better position of doing and adding to the comic, but also continuing the story, because this is meant to be. We have more pieces of the puzzle, more characters we'd like to reveal, more story to tell.
I was reading some of the comments on the Kickstarter, because people can write there. And from where I'm sitting, it looks like the reception has been wildly phenomenal. That so people are just, I mean, that's gotta feel really nice to create something and have people be like, oh shit, we really would like this. We want more of this. We want to help you hit your goals and go do that. So guys, if you're at home, it's so important that if you see something that you like, and you see art that you want to support and you want more of it, that you do go and support it, because that's the way that things like this continue to get made. So again, go to the Kickstarter. Thank you to my amazing mod, Jake Yakoveta, for putting the link in here, but it's also in the description. You rock, Jake. We do have questions for you guys. If you guys have questions at home, streamlabs.com/RoxyStryer. Also, my patrons have been asking some things that I want to get to. And that can be questions specifically about Hellbent or just their process. I don't know if, Jayna, is this your first comic book that you've written? Wow, so fucking cool. Congratulations. Have I said congratulations yet?
Well, you did now.
We are 25 minutes into the show. Congratulations. This is going beautifully, swimmingly, and I'm really proud of you guys. It's awesome. There we go. I said congrats. Took me far too long, but I did do it. So going into some of these Patreon questions, let's see, coming in, the first one that came through is coming from Garth McMurray, who says, DJ and Jayna, I'm a comic artist myself, and I was wondering when you first remember getting into comics and what were some of your favorites that motivated you to create your own. So we talked a little bit about being younger and when you guys kind of were, what you were into, but anything that motivated you to start creating your own?
Yeah, Jayna, I'm interested in I know you said comics, but also the manga that got you interested and all that stuff. And also to add to that question, I'm interested, I always mention the comics that influenced, were there a manga that influenced you when working on this with me?
Oh, yeah. So it's Ranma Half. It is by the author of Inuyasha, which is the more famous work. It is about a character who's like cursed to like transform between like male and female when they get wet. Really funny. And also,
I remember about this. I remember this.
And so
is that wet, like a sexual wet, or wet like in the pool?
Like wet in the pool. It's like a PG series. But
I don't know anything about mangas at all.
Not all tentacles. But basically, yeah, it's more of like the humor of like there's characters who are, you know, attracted to the main character in various forms, or both forms. And so that's like just kind of like a very like queer kind of narrative that came out in the 90s. So it's a little problematic at some parts, but like mostly like really enjoyable. And so that was like a big influence. Just I would say it was definitely like one of my favorite. And then I like a lot of like shonen, such as like One Piece, and then one that's retired, High Shield 21, no longer running, and another one called Medaka Box. These are all obscure. But and then for comics, Sandman, I would say, was probably my like main avenue into like I would read some of DJ's comics here and there, but like Sandman was the one that really got me into comics, American ones. And then from there I kind of branched out to like like Preacher, Watchmen. Currently my favorite one would probably be Promethea, which is by Alan Moore as well. Really short, it's like 5 volumes, I think. Highly recommend. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
What about for you, DJ?
It was so wrapped up in Jayna. So just the comics that kind of influenced. That got me into comics.
Yeah. Well, no, just that influenced you in writing this, because I know you had mentioned a little bit about like Preacher.
Yeah, Preacher, Sandman. I like old school Constantine comics a lot. Also, if anybody's read the most recent Cy Spurrier run on Constantine, that's part of the new Sandman universe imprints. Excellent. It's just really good. But yeah, it's mostly for influence on this. A little bit. Grant Morrison influences a lot of what I do. I just like the way they process really big ideas and a really Chaos Magicians write really good comics. Turns out, but I think when I think about this comic, I think about when it comes to like universe and world building and overall tone. I think of Sandman a lot. When it comes to how characters interact with that supernatural world, it's Preacher. Like, I don't think anybody in this comic really, they like to take the piss out of the kind of the magical world, because to them it's their lives. It's not special to them in that way. And so I've always liked, but even then, like movies that can kind of poke at the corners, films, comics, whatever, that can kind of poke at the corners of what's acceptable and stuff like that have always kind of interested me. And truthfully, Witcher this might surprise people. Witcher was actually a big influence because again, that kind of like, I loved when I first played Witcher 3, just the idea of a monster hunter that's like a blue collar. It's not like a prince or like somebody that's destined to a wizard or any of that stuff. This is just his job. He's basically a blue collar worker and his job is hunting monsters. That was kind of, I just love that so much. I think that's such a cool conceit. And that was an early seed for Nick, of just like a guy that's like, this is just my job. I don't really care about the cosmos or the universe or whatever. I just need this thing that's eating people to stop doing it. That's all.
With go ahead, Jayna.
Have you read Swamp Thing too? Like Swamp Thing was also very influential on me.
Yeah, Swamp Thing is huge. There's the current run on Swamp Thing's really good. But yeah, it's just I think there's a real reason we always kind of like gravitate towards like the Alan Moores and the Neil Gaimans and the Grant Morrisons, and because it's that European and British invasion comics just handled this cosmic stuff in a very unique way.
Mm-hmm. We're mentioning Preacher and Swamp Thing and Witcher, and so I'm curious, in Dream of Dream worlds, does this turn into like whole run TV series spin-off? Like, have you guys thought about like the entire universe building off of this? And if that's something that you guys are interested in, I'm assuming that's something that any creator is interested in. But like in the Dream of Dream worlds, where does this go?
Jayna, do you have
I mean, I have ideas for beyond this current run, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think like I like the idea of one thing that we really wanted to do was we wanted the comic to actually like say things, and it's not like we're trying to like, we don't think like one comic will change the world, but like if everyone, all the creators are like trying to actually like make
a difference.
Yeah, basically put out messages of acceptance and so forth. And so I have ideas that are kind of also like commentary on modern times that are different. We have a character that I'm not going to reveal the name of, but we've talked about who is a basically a parody of like kind of like frat boy Nazism kind of things like that. And the character might surprise you. Y'all might be familiar.
Yeah, she and I have had a lot of conversations.
That's how we call it. Tease, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the story we're telling right now, if we get to finish out the story, should be a 3-part story. This is part 1 of a 3-part story that encapsulates. And what we talked about is we want, if we're able to do these 3 parts, if that's all we get to do, you do get a complete picture. And we touch on like the big things we wanted to try and do. That said, Jayna and I do have, I would really like this to continue. I know Jayna has ideas. I know I have ideas. I have been hesitant to really dive into all those with her. Like I've been like, let's keep them in our back pocket because I don't want to get, we don't know where it goes. So I don't want to get too married to like something like an issue 66. This is where, you know what I mean? Because you never know if things are so volatile and everything. But I would love that. I would love us to get an opportunity to do a full run of this comic and really dive into all the situation. Because once you get into the world that we've constructed, there's so many different roads you can take, so many avenues you can explore, so many because our take on magic and the universe is very specific. It allows us to do really cool things. And yeah, if Netflix wants to give us a big old paycheck to make that show,
you're gonna say no.
Yes, please and thank you. You know what I mean? Yes, please. So there's more
story to be told. You told the story that you needed to tell, and there's more story that you feel like it deserves telling with these characters.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, a couple other things in the Patreon. I like this question from Leonard Kim, who says, "Hey DJ and Jayna, congrats on launch." See, he said congrats so fast. That's how you do
Thank
it. You start with congrats. Congrats on launching your comic book, and I wish you both all the best. Hopefully, you're able to meet a bunch of stretch goals. Throughout the process of bringing your comic book to fruition, what ended up being more difficult than you anticipated, and what ended up being easier than you anticipated?
I'm interested in your answering this, Jayna.
Yeah, I think like difficulty is honestly just the time. Like it's just like this is supposed to be a summer project of last summer.
Yeah.
So it keeps it's just everything, and everyone's busy, and we're all like everyone on the team is busy. I mean, DJ of course is really spearheading it, so he's always on our asses. But if I can say that word,
he's on our asses.
And then the easiest thing, I actually think, DJ, you and I have like a pretty good rhythm. I think issue chapter, I should say, chapter 3, which we hope to get to because this current volume, it contains chapters 1 and 2.
Yes.
So if you want to read chapter 3, I'll support us. But chapter 3, I felt went super smoothly. Like, and I know we're still rewriting some stuff, but like I think like the basic, I thought it had action, humor, tension. Like I thought it just went so well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think chapter 4 went relatively smoothly. Well, the only complication with chapter 4 is we're doing that was your baby that was structurally doing different things, and so figuring that out, and that's why I'm really hopeful that we can get to the later chapters, because we get more experimental structurally as we go on.
When you say your baby, did you guys each like spearhead different parts and then go over it together, or what do you mean by your baby?
I think I would characterize, and Jayna, correct me if you perceive it differently. Like when we first started talking about, I had the bare bones of the outline, but then at this point, it's kind of hard to say who did what, where. Except for, I would say, issue. Excuse me, I made the same mistake she did. Chapter 3 was. I kind of wanted a big action chapter, like this is a big blowout blockbuster. We're going big. And Jayna had something very specific in mind with chapter 4 that kind of focused on our 3 female leads. And then those 2 were we each had obviously insight on those, but it kind of became chapter 3 was kind of more my jam, and chapter 4 was kind of hers, and then the other ones are kind of intermingling of ideas, and then also a little bit of practicality when you guys get to through chapter 2. Some of that stuff, once we figured out, we had a lot of conversations about what are we including in this Kickstarter, what's in the comic people are getting, how many chapters are getting, what's the page count, and so we had to structurally move stuff around a little bit to make it work. And so on the practical level, that's beyond the creative intermingling. On a practical level, we had to move stuff around to a degree.
It wasn't that hard, though. It wasn't really that difficult to move things around. I didn't find. But I was going to say, I actually do kind of feel like the even chapters I have more of a thumbprint on, and I think the odd chapters you have more of a thumbprint on, if you can think of the order. I just feel like that's kind of how it worked out. Not that we didn't contribute, but I just kind of.
Maybe, but I would also say that you had a really significant impact on chapter 5 and the conversations that go on in that one. That's a really key one as well.
Now I have to know what happens in chapter 5. What happens? These are just, I don't even know if you guys are knowing how much you're plugging in and teasing it, but now we all have to know. A couple of things that I want to mention in the Streamlabs. So we have, we call him our mascot on the show, Zen Glenn Caesar, who is incredible, who gives us these mantras every day. So Glenn said today, bunnies for Avery Burke and Avery's mom. Rest in peace to Chris Burke. Avery is one of our supporters here, one of our friends who is 13, who lost her dad a month ago. And so we are always thinking about Chris Burke and Avery Burke. And then he says, #3 Rockstars Forever. Go Smets, and everyone's still fighting to smash cancer. Our friend Kevin Smets, who is now fully in recovery from cancer, which is amazing. And then he said, and I stand against anti-Semitism. I stand against Islamophobia. I stand against Asian hate. #Stop AAPI hate. I know that Black Lives Matter. #BLM. And then what we say on this show every single day and have been saying for now over a year. Miles Cosgrove, Brett Hankison, Jonathan Mattingly, arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor, all 3 of them for killing Breonna Taylor. Hope today is the day. Justice for all the people who've lost their lives due to excessive force. #say their names. Glenn, thank you for always reminding us of the important things to say. Glenn then also says, hello, Roxy, DJ, and Jayna. Good day. Thanks for hanging out and talking Hellbent and more with us all. No usual spiel from me, just saying peace, bunnies, hugs, and good stuff to you all. Grammy and Papo, be most excellent to yourselves and each other. RJ, DJ, Jayna, and Rockstars Band. Glenn, you are, as always, the best with the greatest energy, and thank you for supporting each one of us. We really appreciate you. Also coming in through the Streamlabs, Jimmy Nails says, Congratulations. See, everybody knows now. Congratulations. Congratulations, DJ and Jayna. This book seems to be everything I've ever wanted in a comic, and it does my heart good to see a fellow transgender creator getting seen. Love and support to you both. Expect a big donation from me from my next check. Jimmy, that's really sweet. Thank you so much, friend. Guys, expect a big donation. When you hear it, you gotta just love it. Yeah.
It's also worth mentioning. I always feel a little weird bringing this one up, but I've heard people ask questions. You will not get charged until the Kickstarter is complete.
Oh yeah, I saw you tweeting about this.
Yeah, so feel free to donate. I know other people are like, well, I've got to wait for great. If that makes you feel comfortable, totally do that. However, it won't get charged until the campaign's over, if that helps.
So it's because they only charge you once it gets complete, or because once you hit your goal? Like if Kickstarter is the thing where if you don't hit your goals, you don't get charged at all.
Yeah, you don't get charged at all, but it won't charge until the campaign is over.
It is over. Gotcha. Yeah. When is the campaign over?
The campaign is over. I need to double check the exact time. But it is over. I want to say on the 15th. Let me get you an exact time. Okay. So Thursday, July 15th at 5:46 a.m. So really, the let's be honest. I mean, I guess you can sneak some in there bright and early on July 15th.
I think let's just say Wednesday.
Yeah, and also, yes, yeah. Please, Wednesday. Just come in Wednesday.
Yeah, let's not push it to Thursday. Thursday at 5. Let's not be weird.
That is 5 a.m. PST. So I guess if you're on the East Coast,
wow. If you're on the East Coast, you could wake up, go for a run, and then
then give us your money.
Yeah. Before then, yep. Danny Boy, our friend Danny Boy says, "Hi Roxy, congratulations." Congratulations to both DJ and Jayna on reaching goal with Hellbent. Can't wait to read it. Everybody, so support this. Thank you, Danny Boy. Very sweet. Appreciate you. Another question coming through from the Patreon. Glenn says, hello, DJ and Jayna. It's great to have you back here on Live at the Roxy, DJ, or on the show for the first time, Jayna. I'm looking forward to today's show and getting to know you guys. He sent this in before the show started, and your experience with the comic, as I'm sure the conversation will be fun and funny, but also insightful. I think we did that. Fun, funny, and insightful. Here's my question for each of you, which I haven't asked in a while. If you had complete creative and executive control over all comics, DC, Marvel, Valiant, etc., and any streaming service, which comic book characters, including your own, would you have crossover in a TV series, single or multiple seasons, and why? Thanks. Okay, whoa, big question coming in from Glenn. I feel like
raising myself for this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jayna, it felt like you just knew the answer immediately. You nodded like I've been thinking about this my whole life.
It's Animal Man. I mean, it's always been Animal Man. So
they're gonna put that on some thing for you one day. Quote: "It's always been
Animal Man."
So what are you trying to do with Animal Man?
What would I do with Animal Man? I mean, I think just I could see the idea of it's very controversial take. I'm not really a big fan of Deadpool, but I think Animal Man handles the fourth wall breaking to my tastes, and so I think having that sort of meta aware. I think they can do a lot. The villain Psycho Pirate, is very he's ascended beyond his medium basically. I think you could have a lot where the Psycho Pirate talks to the audience, and Animal Man's slowly becoming more enlightened, I guess you could say, as the series goes on, and you could do something like Black Mirror with the Bandersnatch, where there's interactivity. I think that would be great.
Oh my God! Why haven't they done something like that with a character like Deadpool or Animal Man, like a choose your own adventure type thing? That'd be so interesting.
Now they're gonna steal my idea.
Now they're gonna steal it. No, and I think speaking of Animal Man, I actually would be really excited to see Animal Man pop up on the Doom Patrol show that people can watch on HBO Max. Because
where are we at with that right now?
I mean, it should be getting a season 3. I don't know when. I know Titan season 3 is coming out soon. So that leaves me very excited for Doom Patrol. But I think Doom Patrol did a shockingly good job of adapting Grant Morrison's run on that. So I think they would do a good job incorporating Animal Man, and that might be a good way to be like spin off Animal Man into his own thing. Like, hey, audiences, this is who this character is, in case you don't know.
But I'm so bummed right now because, guys, he said you could legit use your own characters. You got to put them in a show. Like, how are you going to get the opportunity to put any character in any show and not be like, okay, gonna pluck this character from my book?
Well, I don't know if anybody's seen there's right now there's a Lock and Key Sandman crossover in the comics. And so I think it'd be very cool to see like I would love to see like Nick crossover with like Constantine and Jesse Custer from Preacher. I feel like they would all not get along in a very specific way that would be interesting. And it'd be cool to see Jesse hang out with like Death from
I was just
Sandman.
Jesse and Death. I think that would be really that would go very well.
That would be, I think that would be really cool. And I think if there's a way that you could do it, like when you hear like, oh, Lock and Key Sandman, you're like, oh, that's going to suck. Like, it's a good idea, but like, how do you do it? But it works shockingly organically with both stories. Like, and so it's like, if you could do something like that, where yes, it's characters from another thing, but it kind of just goes together in a really organic way. That would be really cool.
While we are dream casting things, I saw this Twitter debate going on that was talking about how one person tweeted out who's the most perfectly cast person in any movie, and the internet like exploded, actually ironically, Jayna, with Deadpool, saying that Ryan Reynolds was like by far and away the most perfectly cast person of all time, which like I do feel like the internet sometimes doesn't realize what of all time means. Of all time means in the most recent 5 years that you can see. But I did start thinking about this because the way that it was phrased was like, there's nobody else on the planet that you could see playing that role. And I don't know if I don't know how many times in life I've watched something and thought there's nobody else on the planet I could see playing that role. But definitely there are better cast people than others. Do you guys have anybody that like when you watch TV or movie that you're like, this is the fucking person and the only person for the job?
Well, I would think like it's tough. I think superhero, that's where the internet's probably going to want to go with it. But I think superheroes are like the wrong choice because inherently we've had how many Batmans and how many of them are somebody's their Batman, or like James Bond. Like everybody has their Bond, you know? When I think about like, I started thinking about this when you said all time. I'm like, yeah, all time. I was thinking like Humphrey Bogart and Casablanca. That it's and not necessarily that nobody else could play it, but at this point, it's so
what's the point?
Iconic. Like, why would you? Or like, even more so, maybe Orson Welles and Citizen Kane, because not just because that is the person that played that, but also that's the reason that movie exists is because Orson Welles wanted to do. Like, it's so tied to that one individual that like, how else would you even possibly consider?
Yeah, I can feel that. If they were remaking the movies, it would be so intense as an actor. If you had to play somebody who was like that freaking iconic, I would just tap out. Jayna, what about for you?
Well, I was on that line. I actually think Michael Keaton as Birdman, because it's a lot of meta commentary on like Michael Keaton's career. Yeah. So I think that is a really excellent. I was just gonna say Charles Dance as Tywin Lannister from Game of Thrones. That was my first thought, but then once you said that, I was like, yeah, actually.
Well, that's pretty good too. Actually, I think that there's a lot of TV actors that might be more of the answer to this question because we live with them for longer. Yeah. So you can't picture anybody else taking their shoes.
I mean, if you want to say like Lucille Ball and I Love Lucy, it's like literally nobody else could play that role. Like that's a crazy talk.
That's really true.
Sorry, Nicole Kidman. I don't know.
I'm so nervous about that. Remember the article that came out like 2 months ago that was like Nicole Kidman is a dead ringer for Lucille Ball, and then had a picture of her and she looked legitimately nothing like Lucille Ball. I was like, oh no.
I want to continue on this TV thought, but real quick before I do want to get out there, I know Disney is going to want to do more Indiana Jones stuff, and I think just stop. It was Harrison Ford. It is Harrison Ford, and also it was Harrison Ford at a specific time. Either you need to allow him to age, or you need to stop doing it, because seeing old ass Harrison Ford in the same costume, it's silly. It's not like they trotted out Sean Connery in his Bond tuxedo for Last Crusade. Like they acknowledge like he's an old person now.
I like you saying that that's what you had to get out there. Like, I didn't know what we were going for. And you're like, before we move on, this must be said.
Yeah, Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. I don't want to see Chris Pratt. I don't want to see anybody else. I'm sorry. That is that. And honestly, I think with the franchise, we should just let it die after those 3 movies. The first 3 movies are perfect. And you let them go. And we just
I'm going to tell you this. There is, and I mean this with my whole soul, a 0% chance that they let go of the Indiana Jones franchise. I mean,
you're right. You're
a legitimate 0% chance.
You're just right.
So you're gonna have to. You either are gonna have to get on board, or you're gonna have to close your eyes.
I think I might close my eyes.
We have no other options there. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Jayna, about Indiana Jones? Do you think that there's going to be more or less anything else? Anybody else that you could see break DJ's heart? Let's see how it goes.
No, DJ, I don't think they're going to do anything with it. I think they're just going to leave. You can sleep at night if you want now.
I mean, maybe I guess maybe going back to the TV part, maybe if you moved it to TV, you moved it to a different medium. Ooh. But even then, I feel like, I mean, how many biblical artifacts can he save from the Nazis to support a TV series? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what they're going to do is they're going to make it like Indy Jones, and it's going to be a girl, and it might be a TV series or a movie, but they're going to gender swap, and then they're going to. And I'm not saying that like that's a bad option. I just feel like at this point in Hollywood, that's what people do to be progressive. Yeah. They're like, oh, how can we make this cool? But what if he was Indy Jones? And then it's like, oh.
I mean, that might be cool in that it is different enough that now my brain is not trying to like reconcile. But then just call
it something else. Just make it a different franchise though.
Yeah.
Well, what if you Batman beyond this? And then you make Indy the mentor figure, but still part of the.
We bring back Shia LaBeouf, and we bring back Mutt Jones,
or someone else. Or somebody else at this point. A couple comments coming in here. You think Gillian Anderson from X-Files? I feel like she was great, but also could have been a lot of other people. Sorry, Cranston and Breaking Bad, also great. Yeah. But probably could have been some other people.
Maybe at least one other piece. What about you, Roxy? What's another TV person? Like, obviously, my brain always went to Seinfeld, like the person whose name is in the show. Yeah. Like, you're a big TV person. What's a good TV person that could never be?
I often talk about how I feel like Lisa Kudrow is the most underrated Friends cast member, but she's like, there is no other Phoebe to me. She kind of creates that entire character. But it's not that I don't think anybody else could be a Phoebe, just nobody else could do what she did. Yeah. And what she did was my favorite. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense.
I would say then, what is her name? Willow from Buffy.
Yeah.
What is her name? She's
having other Allison Hannigan.
Yes. Yeah. She really, really embodies, like, makes you just love her, like fall in love with her.
I'll throw this out there. This was actually this is a off the wall influence for Hellbent, but I know when Jayna and I were kind of breaking down who these characters were, I sent her clips of the character Amos from The Expanse. And
you love that show, DJ.
I love that show, and I love that character. I think that character might be one of the best characters on TV because he's broken in a very specific way. It's tricky to describe, so I imagine it has to be really tricky to perform. And so like that's something I would have trouble imagining another actor executing as well. Somebody that literally just kind of has had the empathy sucked out of their body, but is still kind of like charming and likable. And he's basically like a murder android that can also be your friend. Like it's just a weird.
You are selling it.
Yeah, like, and so I just imagine that was probably tricky to cast, but the actor who plays him does such a good job. I have trouble picturing another actor being able to execute it as well.
I like this answer from Rob saying Larry David and Curb, especially because like I feel like the real answers are like Rami and Dave. You know, when you're playing yourself, nobody can do it better than that. A couple more things going on in the Streamlabs, and get in your questions, comments, concerns. We are getting out of here in probably the next 5 minutes. So if you have any questions for them, any questions for me, any dream casting that you thought was perfect, what's the opposite of dream casting? Because it already happened. Any
Perfect
Awake,
casting.
awake casting.
Yeah.
We were awake and alive for it. Then send them in. Lloyd Nance in the Streamlabs just says, Roxy, Lloyd. Glenn in the Streamlabs says, oh, Glenn's in the same boat as me. He forgot to say congratulations to you guys. He said, I forgot to say congratulations, DJ and Jayna. Way to go. Here's to you all. Here's to you hitting all the stretch goals and get to make all of the Hellbent plus content that you can. Keep on crushing and just be straight fire. Honestly, the directions are clear. He understood the assignment. Just be straight fire. Now we know. Coming in from Leonard Kim in the Streamlabs, he says, I'm sure that plenty of other actors could have played this character, but I think Jim Parsons killed it as Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. It's hard to envision anyone else playing that character the way Jim Parsons did. I don't think I've ever seen an episode.
You know what? I don't think I have either. We're missing out.
It's been on in the background, like if I go to a car dealership or something. I don't know.
And the audience seems to love the live audience that watches that show seems to love it.
This show missed the coasts. Like this was when I was in Boston, nobody there was watching it. In LA, I don't know anybody who watches the show. And
well, somebody did because it's one of the biggest shows that have ever existed.
And yet somehow, some way, that is kind of insane. In the last few minutes that we are here, I do want to also say this is kind of a strange transition, but I did see on Twitter today, as you guys know, Twitter is the place that informs me on what the hell is going on in the world because I never know. That it's been 1 year since Naya Rivera, and I think that is, for a million reasons, upsetting, and the entire situation around her death was so unimaginably difficult. But when you think about that being a year ago, DJ, to talk about what you're talking about at the top of the show, like how long am I going to have that thing in my thumbnail? Because I cannot believe that was a year ago. Yeah. And for you guys to have mentioned that this was supposed to be a summer project, that means that we certainly have been in this for a really long time. So I like to try to take takeaways and lessons from things. And knowing that it's been a year since something that feels like it's been about a month ago, do you guys feel like as artists, as creators, as human beings, that there is any one major takeaway from you guys that you feel like in the last year, any one major thing that you guys feel like is making you live your life differently or create differently or treat people differently, or any big thing that you feel like has resonated with you most? Jayna, anything going on with you? It's just a really simple question.
Yeah, I think it's really just been so I work with counseling clients, and I think just the more perspectives I hear, the more it does soften my heart towards, people really just want to be happy, and people really just want to get to have a good life. And it helps me even understand when people vote for people that I don't support. It's not that I excuse it, but it does make me understand, like, okay, to them, they think this is happiness, and it's kind of our job to show them why this is, like, why happiness for one person actually depends on happiness for everyone.
Wow. Yeah. Happiness for one person depends on happiness for everyone.
Yeah. We're all in this together, whether we like it or not.
DJ, what about for you?
I'm hard pressed to say something as eloquent as that.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm sorry. If I knew that's what she was going to say, then I would have gone to you first. I mean, it was like really good.
So the question is, what was my takeaway from the past year?
Yeah, just like knowing that the passing of time, it's been 1 year. You have been working on this for that long. Everything that's gone, like, it can be something as small as what your biggest thing as a creator lesson you've learned. Just always trying to do it for the people, DJ.
Yeah, I think the thing I've been thinking about the most in the past year is perseverance. Because I think for a lot of us, it's been very, very tough, very challenging in a variety of ways. And so some very similar ways, obviously, but also in different ways. And so just trying to figure out what it's going to take to persevere and to see through, like Jayna was saying, like trying to figure out what it takes to be happy and what that looks like. in your personal life and for the people around you, and trying to create the environment. Jayna mentioned we tried to create the comic we wanted to read. How do you create the life that you want to live in? Trying to figure that one out has been a head scratcher.
I very much so can relate to everything that both of you guys just said. Thank you for sharing those things. We do have another Streamlabs coming through, and then we will get out of here. Pink Sweet says, "Oh hi, been feeling shit lately, but this episode has been so lovely. Love DJ and Jayna is super lovely. Rox, I definitely thought you became blonde a lot sooner than your throwback photos." Oh, I've been doing this recreations on Instagram. Yeah, I've only been blonde for like a couple of years, and showing that your photos are showing. DJ and Jayna, what is your favorite movie so far this year?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Out this year, or
yeah, I think so. Pink Sweets likes to throw in a curveball at the end there, and I love that about Pink Sweets.
I think what came out this year.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I've been trying to, because Roxy, what we do, I try to do like my top 10 of the year, and so I've been trying to think like what actually has come out so far in 2021.
Okay, so Quiet Place 2. We had what was the bit? Fast 9.
Mm-hmm.
We had Cruella. We had Luca. We had some other things, I'm sure. Oh, Mortal Kombat.
Oof. Oh, sorry. Speaking of real quick, I saw somebody in the chat, the third turd, said, he says, worst casting. I disagree with this completely, but it did make me think. He said Chris Lambert as Raiden in Mortal Kombat. Hard disagree, but I've got to say, in the original Mortal Kombat movie, I hope I pronounced it correctly, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa played Shang Tsung. And I think there is not a better Shang Tsung to have ever Shang Tsung, to the point that they've had him come back and play Shang Tsung in the video games. Like in the most recent Mortal Kombat, he plays Shang Tsung.
That's awesome.
And rewatch, because after the most recent Mortal Kombat movie, I went back and watched the 1990s one, and I really like that one. And just watching him, like, oh, this guy is killing it. He's clearly having so much fun, which is what you should be doing in a Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry to derail that.
You're not in the right movie.
You're not in the right movie.
But what movie? I can't think of any other movies. Jayna, did you come up with one that you saw this year?
I am looking hard for movies that came out in the past.
Maybe a TV show then, if we can't think. I honestly can't think of that many movies.
So I feel like there's definitely one that I'm forgetting. But I feel like there's one in my brain that it sucks because it's like I feel like it really connected with me, and right now I can't think of it. But off the top of my head, probably Judas and the Black Messiah. I thought was really excellent, very timely, and I really enjoyed.
Was that year?
Yeah, it was early. It was like February. It was like February of this year. And of course, like you got a nod to like being in the El Cap and seeing Black Widow was just a really experientially was really cool. It's like, oh, things are happening again. So that was really cool for me too.
Life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what'd you get?
There's one like recent film that I've seen that I liked. It wasn't even this year, but Palm Springs with Andy Samberg.
Yeah,
it was cute. It was definitely really.
That's
cute.
A fun movie.
I remember that came out right in a time where a lot of us needed something really fucking fun to watch. Just something simple. It was really cute. Well, DJ and Jayna, thank you guys so much for being here. Before you guys leave, we've got some things to tell the people. Like, where do they support? How do they support? What do they support? Get in all of that, because I will say the rock stars happen to be effing incredible and show up where we need them to. And you guys have more than earned it. So what are you guys looking for exactly right now? Where do they find it other than the link in the description?
Link in the description or hellbentcomicbook.com. The book part is important on that. You're hellbentcomicbook.com, or again, the link in the description. And again, we've only got, as of this recording, we've only got 6 days left. So if you want,
we're really only saying 5 because we know what happens on that 6th day.
We know what happens on that 6th day. Yeah. So we only have a few days left. If you want this comic, now is the time. Please go over there. We've got a bunch of variant covers. Roxy showed them earlier, so you can pick one of them. You can pick one of those. You can pick one of the tiers that has all 3 of them, which I recommend because they're all amazing. Look at them. So many talented and amazing people worked on this with us. Also, if you missed my previous comic, Chaos Theory, this is your last opportunity to get it. I went through my inventory. There's a few tiers. I think there's 2 specific tiers left remaining that have a very limited option left. That is all of my inventory on Chaos Theory volumes 1 and 2. So if you like, I like this Hellbent thing, I might want to check out Chaos Theory. This is your one shot, and they're limited, and they go away in however many 5-6 days. So hellbentcomicbook.com. If you've already contributed, thank you. You have literally have no idea how much that means to us. Go share it. Go share it out.
Tell your friends.
Yeah, we're working on our next stretch goal, which again adds more pages to the comic, helps flesh out the story more. We'll give you better insight in our antagonists and some of the secret organizations that are behind the scenes, all that stuff. So would really love to hit that stretch goal. It also puts us in a better position to do Hellbent Part 2. So all of that, hellbentcomicbook.com, link in the description, any and all of that. Please go support.
And if you've already supported, then tweet it out.
Tweet it.
Let other people know how to support. You guys will think that this is goofy, but this is how we end the shows here. So I'm just going to say a series of things that may or may not make sense to you guys. Before I do that, I'll thank you guys both for being here. If you guys want to follow them, look, I pointed the right way.
Yay!
The show. I thought about it in the whole thing. But thank you again to DJ and Jayna. You guys are awesome. Before we leave, stay safe, stay sane, put down the toilet seat and lid. We don't want the paflumes. You don't know how weird it sounds till you're with people. Make your bed. It can change your life. Brett Miles Jonathan, arrest the cops that killed Brown and Taylor. Don't trend with the Holocaust. Check your internet. You can do so by blowing on it. And I will see you guys tomorrow live at the Roxy.
Bye. Oh, and patreon.com/onlystupid-answers for the Roxy night tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
But all the Friday mornings. But tomorrow's Friday. Okay, bye.
Bye.